Jaco, hoe gaan het met jou?
I'm good. And yourself?
I can't complain, man.
So, firstly, thanks a lot for joining. As the team would have said, this is the first IG Live that we have. And I'm very privileged to have you as our first guest. We're also still learning. But ultimately, just to come back to what it is that we as a brand do and what we focused on here at RoadSave, it's all things road related. And specifically as a brand, there's two primary things that we focus on. It's keeping you safe and helping you save on the road. And part of the idea for us going forward is to connect with industry experts, thought leaders, people that really have in-depth knowledge of road safety and the automotive vertical in South Africa. And the big idea with that is to, in essence, ensure that our members have the safest and most affordable motoring. And just a quick intro to all of the people that are watching this video. So, Eugene, you're a motoring and road safety expert with more than 30 years of experience in the automotive industry. You started your career in 1975 as both the owner of a risk management company and also a motoring journalist. And we know that you're very passionate about road safety and reducing the death toll on our roads. And I also know that you sit on the board of several NPOs, namely the Road Safety Foundation, National Road Safety Partnerships, and the Safe Drive African Foundation, so quite a lot. And I think very importantly, you're also the CEO and COO of Master Drive South Africa, and we obviously want to focus on Master Drive today.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to be here. And I think any platform that I can talk about road safety is one that I appreciate, because above all, we should also, in addition to making money in our business, we should be able to put something back into something which is key to what we do. And our primary focus is on changing the behavior of drivers. International statistics, and if I can just bore you with those for a moment, 95% of crashes are attributed to driver behavior. So we have some of the safest vehicles in the world today. We have some of the best roads in certain areas. But what we don't have is the best drivers. And I must just anecdotally mention to you, because we don't have any proof of it, but certainly in South Africa, since COVID, the standard of driving has deteriorated considerably. There is proof abroad in Europe and in the United States where crashes have gone up, even though the number of vehicles on the road has decreased considerably. The number of miles that they've traveled also reduced. So there's a bit of an anomaly that one would have assumed that because there were less drivers or less cars on the road, there would be less crashes. And I'll talk to the reasons about it in a moment. We focus at a corporate level where we take drivers that are average and we make them good. We take good drivers and we make them better. And the one thing that we've just introduced now, it's been a long time in the making, and whether it's the right time we can debate. We've just opened up a high-performance driving section using Ford Mustangs. So if you want to get your butts in the seat of a powerful V8, some of them have got Rouge conversions on. So really, it's an exciting thing. But that's the bonus. When a person can drive well on the road, they can prevent being involved in a crash, which means that they're around to look after their family and loved ones. And if we take the multiplying effect, so one driver has maybe 5 people dependent on them. So if we can change that, make them safer, we are making the roads better for you and myself, and ultimately everyone that's involved.
I think it's extremely valuable, the work that you guys do. I'm quite excited to hear about the Ford Mustangs. And obviously here in RoadSave's environment, we try and keep things interesting and exciting at all times for our members. So maybe there's something that we can do together in future to offer a prize or two, maybe. I mean, I would love to put up my hand to be in one of those cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eugene, another point that I want to touch on is just road safety related to women. So we know that a woman is killed every 4 hours in South Africa. And female drivers are often regarded as easy targets by criminals. So what personal safety tips or advice can you give to women to avoid being targets of crimes, such as theft, hijacking, kidnapping, sexual assault, or even worse?
You know, several years ago, we interviewed a rehabilitated hijacker. And therefore, when we interviewed them, there was a host of things that we found out. One, which I think it's interested for those who are listening and viewing, to know that many hijackers are operating under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And it could even be that they have some other belief that they're invincible. So we need to understand that if we're out on the road that we have to be very careful. These are probably not, they're normal people, but they're acting abnormally. Now, what was also found over there, when we said to him, so why would you attack a woman or try and take a car from a woman as opposed to a man? And the common comment was that they are more vulnerable. And I think that's put it the polite way of saying it. So women are seen to be vulnerable. So anything that we can share with women drivers and women in general should be then seen with a view to reducing that vulnerability. And here are a couple of things that they should be talking about. Certainly, when a person is on the road, the first question that you have to ask yourself, and that applies to any driver, do you need to be on the road? Now, we know that at certain times of the day, they may be more vulnerable, and therefore, in places that they may be driving, there could be increased vulnerability. So please don't find yourself in that situation where you are, from a time point of view, getting dark. You've been forced to drive through intersections where a great number of hijackings occur. Now, here are a couple of very pragmatic things. And I think you'll probably agree with me. One of the biggest problems that we have today is distracted while driving. You ask anybody where the hijacker came from, you know what they say to you? He came from nowhere. What they're actually meaning to say is that they weren't paying attention, and therefore when the hijacker arrived, they didn't realize until the last minute. You'll be driving down the road, you pull up to a traffic light, and what's the first person that the guy in the car next to you does? Take out their cell phone. There they're looking at their cell phone. Now, why do we do that? Because we want to catch up on Facebook, WhatsApp, and whatever else it is. So please, when you're driving, pay attention to what you should be, the act of driving. The other thing is, and what women can do in particular, the greater percentage, and depending on who you listen to, they will tell you they occur at homes. Because you know why? That's when we're at our most vulnerable. You'd never pull directly into your driveway. Because if a car were following you and they stopped behind you, they would cut off any means of escape. Yeah. So you stop in parallel with the road, you're sending a message to the person that follows you, hey, this person is aware of what's going on, and then you can pull in. And 90% of us have electric gates. So if we plan it correctly, we can be through the gate and relatively safe. There's one area that I'd like to just talk about before we move on to something else, is that, people and women, one of the things that they do on the way home is stop at the shopping center, hey? Now, remember, the greatest number of hijackings are probably to order, and this changes all the time. So now let's say you're driving, a yellow Mustang is not a good answer, but a BMW, a nice M3 or something. So if they've been shopped to order, you're a lady, so I wait at the shopping center and I see you come out there, you open the boot, you put your groceries in, and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Where in all likelihood are you going? You're probably going home, aren't you? So if I follow you, I will know where you live. Now, I may not do something that day, but I know if you do that today and you do that tomorrow, in all likelihood, you're going to be the same in the same place. So it enables those who have malfeasant intentions of being able to plan around an activity that's going to rob you of your vehicle. If we can empower you to drive in a manner that demonstrates that you're in control all of the time, allowing proper distance in front of you when you get into a traffic light so that there's an escape route for you, you're demonstrating to anybody who looks on that you're in control. But if you're keeping observing all around you, you're then in a position to make an informed decision. And yes, the last bit of suggestion that I would like certainly ladies to think about it. It's all very well saying, if I'm followed, I'm going to head to a safe place. What is a safe place in your mind? That supermarket over there, we know that it operates 24 hours a day. There's a security guard so that we know if we went there, more important, it would make us feel safe. And of course, criminals don't like to be the center of attention. So if we know that there's cameras there, etc., that would video it, there's a greater likelihood that it's a safer environment for us to work.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Eugene. I think like practical tips and like just being vigilant and paying attention to like some of the things that I think sometimes you think like it's not that important. It's like super important, especially if you look at how other people on the outside would perceive that specific situation. In South Africa, and we find that a lot with our services as well, people would say that, you know what, it's never going to happen to me. It's going to happen to my neighbor. But people tend to forget that you are also someone's neighbor. The reality is that all of us are at risk. There's certain realities. It's not always nice to talk about it, but it is a reality. And there's practical things that you could do to just be safer on the road. So yeah, thanks a lot for that. Eugene, as a country, we went through quite a difficult week or two, specifically with the unrest in the country. And I think a lot of people were almost scared to take to the roads. So do you have any specific safety tips for driving during time of unrest in our country?
They are and I say they're relatively simple things. Please, I'm not trying to oversimplify the problem. But there's some simple things that we do. Firstly, before we get on the road, it's well worthwhile checking to see what conditions are. Listen to this is one area where social media plays a phenomenal role. Okay? Listen to what's going on and then do your very best to avoid that. And don't think and assume for one moment that the route that you normally travel is the only route to your destination. Because the biggest thing in life that gives us confidence is to have a choice. Now, the other choice that we have is, do I actually want to travel at that time? And you know, with technology today, virtual meetings, what we're having now, we can engage in things that we never did years before. So use technology to your advantage. Should you find that you're inadvertently in a situation such as that, what do? It's been proven that in the majority of instances, they're not interested in the person, in hurting the person. True, your car may be given a few bangs and dents, your windscreen may be broken, but it's not the person that they're interested in. But one of the worst things that we can do is and this is, people are curious. So they see something up ahead, and you know what they do? They drive closer and closer and closer, and then before they realize it, they're in the middle of it. But if you are caught in the middle of it, please, let's not blow hooters, because what does that do? It just irritates and it aggravates an already bad situation. So be calm. Don't look for eye contact with individuals. So just focus on the road ahead and travel slowly and progressively. Don't get angry, because that can turn against you. The car, don't worry about. You know, you can always get that fixed up.
Yeah, I love this idea of obviously being aware of your surroundings, and us being in the tech space, I always see it as like input. So it's data, there's input allowing you to make a decision. Use Waze as an example. Other road users that could contribute with regards to situational awareness on the roads. Now, me personally, I'm a big believer of obviously tech and utilizing tech to make your life easier, simpler, and also safer. And I use it for all of my journeys, irrespective of me understanding like where I'm going and knowing the route. I still use that tool, because that tool could identify potential safety issues. Yes, it's probably going to help me to get home quicker as well by avoiding that. But I think sometimes we forget the safety element that's also attached to it. And you touched on this earlier, like we forget about this. We do like drop our eyes, we look on the phones, we focus on all of the wrong things. So in your opinion, the 3 top reasons that every person should complete a defensive driving course?
You know, there's 3 parts of the brain, the occipital lobe and the cerebellum. Now, the occipital lobe, memory serves me correctly, that teaches you the mechanics, you know, the things that become habit. How do you adjust the mirror? That's got nothing to do with making it safer when you're driving, because once it's adjusted, that's it. You've got your seat in the right place. You know how to change gears. All of those are formed very early on in our driving, call it career for want of a better word. But the area that's pretty important that we sometimes forget is the frontal lobe. Now, that is where the experts tell us executive decisions are made with regard to driving. So when you take a new person that's out onto the road for the first time, just remember the K53 teaches you what answers to give in order to get the piece of paper that will now allow you to use the road. Does it mean you know how to drive? Probably not, because they've never taken you on speed, 120, and you see some persons the first time they get there, they're like this. They've never driven in heavy traffic. They've never driven at night before they've got their actual license. So they've never had the opportunity of creating muscle memory. That's the one thing. Now, the beauty of getting people to think, or the brain to work in the training context, if, for example, you were driving down the road and you see a ball bouncing down the driveway, what do you conclude may be the case?
There might be kids.
A child, yeah, following that. Now, you see, unless you've gone through a series of exercises, and what we're doing is we're fast-tracking you to a great extent, getting you to consider all these things. Firstly, we're getting you to drive with your brain, not just on autopilot.
So as drivers, I think the majority of us are just completely disengaged. We actually have no situational awareness.
I'll share this with you. You know, when we teach people what the correct following distance should be behind the car in front of them, and, you know, they will tell you 3 arrows on the road and things like that, or 3 cars lengths. That is kind of really, they're missing the point. But the correct, and I'll give the answer, is 3 to 4 seconds. No. 3 seconds is too long, because you know what? If we allow that, we're going to get the cars cutting in front of us, and we'll end up back where we are. You say to them, how many times does that actually happen? What do you mean? It's at most added a minute to my journey. And then the person would say, okay, we understand that. All right. So what is really the problem? It's not the time. It's not the pushback, but we just don't like people cutting in front of us. So if we can change that mindset, it makes for a far more relaxed drive. So you see, there's a difference between situational awareness. You know what the right thing is to do, but when the pressure changes or circumstances change, what happens up here? If we can change your behavior, we make it safe for you, you get home, we save you money, you have reduced maintenance on your vehicles, you're a far better driver.
The riots and the looting that happened in South Africa, so everybody was so negative, and then everybody was so positive immediately after, because you had this collective effort where people wanted to like combine efforts and jointly do well. And I think all of us as South Africans, we want to see safer and happier and friendlier roads and road users. But yeah, I think it starts with yourself, and like having that mind shift change, looking at courses like the one that Master Drive has available, and then introducing these small changes. Obviously, you've been in the automotive space for many, many years. And just like from your side, why are you so passionate about road safety?
Here is something that is easy to change. We're not asking for R1 million each person. We're not asking for billions to be pumped in order to make you and I undergo some psychiatric evaluation, etc. This is within our control. Would it surprise you to know that the Medical Research Council, they did some research a few years back. They found that the actual number of deaths on the road, or deaths as a result of road accidents, was in the region of between 25 and 35,000. Now you ask, how can that be? Somebody is killed also involved in a crash. You can call it accident, crash, whatever you like. And they die within 24 hours. The cause of death is shown as road accident. However, can you imagine the person who is in hospital for a period of, let's say, 5 days? Now, the crash caused them to have so many injuries that they die as a result of multiple organ failure because their body just couldn't cope with the trauma. What's the cause of death? It doesn't show it as road crash. It shows it as multiple organ failure. So the number of deaths on our roads is far exceeding that which is actually reported. People will be able to buy cigarettes to the value of 2,000 Rand, but they won't make that investment in their life. That's a bit of I have difficulty reconciling that. But there are some real people out there that want to make a difference. Now, the reason why I'm involved with NPOs is because I spend probably about 25% of my time on those NPOs, because we work with schools, we work with other organizations, and then the strength of the collective is that much more powerful. The good things that came out of this unrest. Taxi drivers who are normally vilified stepped up on occasion, and they acted in the interest. So I also sit on the board of another NPO called Road Ethics Project. And the doctor who we started this NPO did her thesis on the taxi industry. Now, when I do presentations on road safety, one of the comments that I make, and you can imagine the response I get when I say this, you know what, taxi drivers are actually not bad drivers. They're actually pretty good. You can imagine the audience. How can you say that? Well, here's a comment, and I say it rather tongue-in-cheek. Any person who can drive a high-ace Zola Bud with a vice grip as a steering wheel at 120 kilometers an hour can't be that bad. What is bad, though, is, is their inability to engage with other motorists in a constructive way. There's lack of ethics on the road. You agree? People speed when they know they won't be trapped. They dangerous maneuvers, they'll overtake on a solid line. Why? They will drink and drive because, they think it's their right. So there's a whole degree of ethics involved. There's an ethos. The message of road safety is not a popular one, and I'm sure you found that out. But the rewards come from seeing the lives that are saved. And, you get a call from that person that says, thank you, because I listened to what you taught us. I was able to get away with my life and no injury. And I use the analogy. We know that children drown in swimming pools, don't we? But how many people put pools in? Many people. But what do they do to manage that risk? They put a net on it or a fence or something. So I do believe anything in life, you can manage the risk. Firstly, you must be happy to live where you want to live or where you're forced to live. You shouldn't allow criminals to dictate the ultimate satisfaction you get out of life. And that's sadly what happened in these last couple of weeks. Happy to drive the vehicle of your choice. You may like driving a BMW. So are you going to allow the fact that hijackers like BMWs and they're at greater risk than others dictate that you can't drive it? Have an objective view of crime, because getting totally hit up and emotional about it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. If you're objective about it, you will then conduct yourself accordingly. Your manner in which you engage with your children, family, loved ones, colleagues, etc., will all be a positive, proactive one. And then the final one was, whatever message that I'm giving you, I would like you to find 10 other people and share that with them.
If we take hands and we combine and we work together towards a common goal, I think that's where we will really see a big difference. So on our side, obviously, we've got this growing user base at RoadSave. We provide various value-added services to keep you safe and help you save on the road. But the bigger idea is for us to have this community and over time to drive collaboration between people and have a community of road savers, again, with a common goal to ultimately help with one thing. And that's like to have an impact when it comes to statistics, making our road a safer place. From my side, congratulations on what you guys have done with Master Drive. I think it's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how else we can collaborate in future. And then just for all of our members, if you can maybe just quickly explain to us how they can reach out to Master Drive.
Road safety shouldn't be politicized, because if we collectively can say this shouldn't be a political thing, what do I score out of it? Ultimately, it should be what does everybody else get out of it? Our website, www.masterdrive.co.za. We also produce a weekly newsletter. It goes out to 15,000 people, and it talks to matters of road safety. Entirely free of charge. We intend to attempt to be as positive as possible. So it's not, hey, be frightened because the hijackers are going to catch you. It's, hey, guys, are you aware if you did this, you could probably get away if there was something bad. So the message of road safety is free for all, and we want as many people to benefit from it as possible.
And again, I have to commend you for the wonderful work that you are doing, like to promote road safety in South Africa. I think we need more organizations doing the same. And again, speaking to your point earlier, I think we need to combine forces as far as possible, not only as individuals, but also as organizations to drive a collective effort. And obviously, we see ourselves as a social venture. And the reality is just the social impact as a result of what's happening on the road is massive. And I think few people talk about that. I want to wrap up by saying thanks a lot for joining us on the live today, and also for being our first guest as we figure this out. I want to finish off by saying, I look forward to collaborating and then working towards that common goal in future.
And please, if there's anybody who wants to support our NPOs, they've just got to reach out to me and I'll tell them how. And there's lots of room for that. It costs the fiscus 174 billion rand a year because of road crashes. Now, if we change that because of the way people drive, 10% of that, 17 billion, what can that do to education, to hospitals, and all those other things? Now, that's something that you and I can directly contribute toward. So let it never be said that we can't make a difference. We can.
It's so true, Eugene. I think so many people are removed from that reality because they are not close enough to the stats. And once you start digging and you find out what the real problem is, it's a massive problem.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us as your first guest. And when we've got the content of this, we will share it as well with our collective. All right.
Thanks so much, Eugene. Really appreciate it. And have a
Okay. You too. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.